everybody. So, my name is DeVika Lyles, and this is Sexologically speaking. And I'm here with Brittany Jones, who is our host and also the owner of Biz Storming, which is an accountability and networking group. And we work together and we get together, and she invites me to talk about things. And a lot of times I let her do her own intro, but I told her just now, I'm like, I'm going to use all my time today. And what I'm using my time to do today is that as a sexologist, I do have my background in educational psychology. I also am certified at several levels, all levels actually, of sexological education facilitation. And I've been doing this work for a really long time. And I say all of this because sometimes people want to pretend that everybody is at the same level of education when it comes to identity and um, talking about certain things, and we're not. We're not all at the same level. We're not all at the same uh, depth or growth. There are monogamous coaches and monogamous people who teach about monogamy, and we don't question when they say they're a relationship therapist or that they have a certain amount of expertise when it comes to Brittany.
I know.
Oh, we don't doubt that when a monogamous or a heterosexual person who says, I'm an expert in these areas, we don't doubt them. But when someone says, I have a certain amount of expertise in the area of things that are not the norm, things that are might be outside of our expectation, for example, non-monogamy, or if we were to say that a person is an expert in trans relationships and trans identities, or gay and lesbians identities, now all of a sudden there's no way one way to do this, or you're not an expert and it doesn't matter, right? Everything is everything. And I put in the caption, while a rose called by any other name may still smell as sweet, when you call something in the world of relationships and sexology something else, you actually do change not only how that something shows up, but you change how people engage. And there are experts like myself. There are people, and I'm not the only one, but there are people who have been studying this, who have been developing curriculum in this. There are people who actually know what they're talking about. And we would do well to listen to them. Now, that doesn't mean that they know everything there is to know, but if they're saying, hey, I've studied this for a while, and maybe we should have a conversation, you should probably listen. And I'm bringing this up because this past week, I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's a full moon. I don't know if people are just getting bold and talking about whatever they want to talk about. Um, but it has come up quite a bit lately, certain words and phrases that people are saying that are just flat out just wrong. And as someone who's highly educated in this area, um, I've tried to, answer via text. I've made graphics, but I really just want to say it out loud. So, um, in the world of what we expect, which is monogamous relationships. And I agree that we need a better term than non monogamous, but we have what we have right now. And then, so we have monogamous relationships, and then we have somewhere on the other side of the binary, we have non monogamous relationships, and somewhere in between the what occurs and what I call the binary, because it's just like a spectrum, right? There's two ends. For me, it's not like one or the other. It's just this is one side and this is the other side. We have different degrees of what is non-monogamy, or and I'm talking about ethical non-monogamy. I'm talking about consensual non-monogamy. I'm talking about consensual non-monogamy that is possibly ethical, even if it's not moral. I'm talking about non-monogamy that is moral, um, even if it's not ethical. Like there's all these different ways that this conversation happens. And it's a complex conversation. So people try to simplify it. But by simplifying it, you just make it more complicated. So I'm going to start with one of the ones that somebody keeps coming to my page to say something, and I have no idea where this person came from, but they come and they say, "Well, we should do away with the term non-monogamous because we're lumping a bunch of things all together, and um, we should only have like open or polyamorous." No, on behalf of a polyamorous person, no. On behalf of people who are in relationships that are open, no. On behalf of Brittany, who's going to swing off her head, absolutely not. Um, those people are not the same people. A non-monogamous person who just is non-monogamous, who may or may not be ethically or nor consensually non-monogamous, is not the same as a person who is openly, ethically, consensually, and intentionally polyamorous. That person is not the same as somebody who it just happens to have an open relationship, whether they themselves are non-monogamous or not. So,
And nobody is the same as swingers.
and nobody's the same as swingers. I wasn't even going to bring them up.
Or unicorn hunters.
Nor
There's
unicorn
no
hunters, because a swinger is a person, um, sometimes in a couple, often not, but they just engage in non-monogamous sexual activity. They have no intention of developing a relationship. Um, a unicorn hunter is usually given to a couple, one or the person or the both of the couples that are looking for specifically a woman to join their heterosexual monogamous relationship in the fulfillment of sexual gratification with a whole bunch of rules, none the least that she must be bisexual. She must be in love with both of them at the same time. She must be at their disposal, and she must see herself as less than the couple itself. Um, these people exist. They're valid. To me, they're closer to polygamy than they are polyamory for various structural reasons. I don't personally prefer to engage with either swingers, nor unicorn hunters, nor polygamous people, nor people who are, I can go either way, because that's just not who I am. I don't want to be with somebody who could just be whatever. I'm a polyamorous person. I'm not an ambiamorous person. So I would prefer to be with someone like myself. If we don't start to actually realize that there are expertise and that there are degrees of these conversations, we are doing ourselves a huge disservice. This morning, somebody posted and said, "You mean to tell me a side chick is not the same as a polyamorous relationship?" No, it's not the same. Just like a side chick is not necessarily a concubine, because a concubine actually had cultural and societal standing, whereas a side chick generally does not. Um, so I know I'm throwing a lot of terms out there, and I know that people who are watching this, who are not in these conversations, may be like not able to follow the conversation. But what I really want people to understand is that there are degrees to this shit. You can't just say there's levels to this, Brittany. There's levels. And you cannot just say, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter. And, there aren't any experts and you don't know." Yes, I do. Yeah, actually, I do. I've been wanting to say this for a very long time. I actually do. I could actually lay out a chart to tell you the difference, because polygamy is hierarchical. there is a standard in which polygamy is one male or man identified spouse with multiple female or woman spouses. And there is a hierarchy in that.
And there's
Generally,
a religion too. There's a religion with polygamy based around it. So you have to understand that right, wrong, and different, there's religions around polygamy. There's
I was good.
religions.
I was going to get there. Well, first, we want to talk about the structure and how the structure is very patriarchal and the structure is very hierarchical and it doesn't allow for equity and it doesn't allow for the women to actually engage in open non monogamy outside of the parameters that are set by the man. Not only that, then there is the whole, not only religious, but cultural, sometimes expectation that these women are now here to serve this man. That is not the same as a polyamorous relationship. It's not the same. It's not the same. And we need to stop pretending that it's the same. A bigamist relationship, in its truest form, is what we call a close triad. I know that there's going to be a lot of people who have something to say about that because we don't use the term bigamist, but I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to put it on record. You don't get to poly if you by bypassing bi. Mono is one, bi is two, poly is many. So how we go from mono all the way to poly without even ever considering this middle ground is because we have been socialized to believe that multiple or plural monogamy or marriage is wrong, but it's not. There are a lot of people out here who want one couple and then someone adding to them. That's closer to bigamy than it is polygamy. And these words matter. They matter. So, no, a side chick is not a polyamorous relationship. And it goes beyond just the fact that the whole entire side chick concept is based in cheating. And then somebody finds out and then they just accept. And that's a whole different conversation. These things are not the same. These things are very complex. They're very they have lines of being distinguished from one another that may run close to each other, and yet they are not the same. A talangelo is not a tangerine, nor is it an orange, nor is it a kumquat, nor is it any other form of citrus because it is a talangelo. Being a polyamorous person is not, a polyamorous person may swing. That doesn't make swinging polyamorous. A polyamorous person may date casually. That doesn't make casual dating polyamory. A person who is monogamous may cheat. That doesn't necessarily make them an ethically non-monogamous person. In fact, they may just be in a situation where for the time they are engaging in non-monogamy. These things are complicated. I get it. But I really need you to seek out actual people who are educated in this field and start asking your questions. Because while some people are developing this knowledge by birth by fire or by being in situations and they're giving you advice, unless they're actually a learned person, meaning they sat down and read books written by learned people, because somewhere the knowledge exists. And I encourage you to start realizing that there are polyamorous experts. There are non monogamous experts. There are people. I am not the only one. There are people in this field who can help you to distinguish and delineate between these very, very closely related things so that you don't sound foolish. Because right now, what we have is a bunch of people just walking around talking and sounding foolish. A side chick is not a metamor. A person that you want to put into a closed relationship so that they can't date anybody but you is not fully experiencing equitable or even open non monogamy. We have got to stop running around just saying whatever we want to say because it impacts the communities that we are in. And again, I'm running out of time because I could talk about this forever, but I encourage you to actually find an expert. They exist. They have developed talks, they run pages, they've written books. Find those people and stop asking these internet, Facebook people who don't know their opinions, which they will proudly tell you are not based in facts. I'm going to go now. I just wanted to send a word of caution. Brittany, if there's anything you want to say now to close us out, that's fine. But it's just been a lot lately. And I just wanted to stop it by and interrupt that. So
No,
thank
that's okay. And one of the biggest things, right, is when we're in those communities and we're in those conversations, we get the, well, I don't fit in a label. Correct. Nobody should be labeled, nobody should be tagged, nobody should be marked for sale. However, words and language to describe who you are and how you want to interact with others is very important. When I'm on my dating app, I very clearly say I'm polyamorous. I have a nesting partner, and that I am only looking for somebody to spend time with twice a week. I use my words to let people know what that relationship looks like. If somebody swipes with me and they're a swinger, they're not looking for an emotional impact because their partner and them have decided it is only sexual. Those things matter to me because I want to have an intimate relationship with somebody that lasts for a long time. If you're a swinger, it's not going to last. I need to know that walking into it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not how I choose to be. So I need you to use the right language so that I can connect with you correctly. It's not a label. And that is really what I would like to just kind of say is they're not labels, they're not boxes. They're spaces where you can add an adjective to who you are. You can add a verb for how you want to be. Kitchen table polyamorous is one of my biggest ones. So really just understand it's not a matter of you guys have to be in a box. It's a matter of we need to understand where you're coming from and what your definition is. DeVika talks about polyamorous. I spell out polyamorous. I have a new phone. I have to teach it polyamory. I have to teach my new phone polyamory. It wants to do polygamy. I'm like, no. Nope,
you.
two different words, but I have to teach it, right? And so, really being in that space of who you are as you are and understanding who other people are because they're using the correct terminology so that you don't get hurt. If it's a closed triad, you understand you're walking into a relationship with a couple and you don't get to date outside of that. There's different things that have to be understood. And when people say I'm polyamorous and we want you to join our couple, then you run into unicorn hunters, you run into all of the toxicity. And so that is really where that comes from. And if you would like to know more, DeVika is actually how I learned I was polyamorous because being her friend for 10 years, I followed her page and I actually was able to look at the words, look at how she was using them, and apply them to things that I felt but couldn't describe. And so when you watch and you learn and you look at the experts and you follow their pages and you don't just hang out in the everybody let's post nonsense groups, you will actually learn so much about yourself. So learn more, go over there, click on those QR codes, book with DeVika, book with myself if you would just like, hey, I was told all of this information really quickly and I still don't know. I can help break it down a little bit, but DeVika is your expert. DeVika is the person who will be able to help you understand that words are power their knowledge. And when you use the wrong ones, you are being manipulative.
Even if you don't want to. Language
Yeah.
is currency. Language is currency. And you've really got to start looking at how your language spins in the communities that you are a part of. If you had a lot of money, you would get a financial advisor. Or if you were trying to learn about money, you would get a financial expert. There are people in these communities who actually do know what they're saying, who actually have taken the time, who have actually looked at the resources or even created their own. And it is high time that we start to be respectful, not only of their work, not only of their experience, but of the impact that is happening because we won't, as a community, start to acknowledge who has knowledge and who's just spitting out opinions. So
Who
we've gone
just
a little bit.
wants to have a side piece with freedom. All right, everybody, we are out. We appreciate you. Thank you, DeVika.
Bye bye.